Hello and welcome to a short video about a water feature I've just made from a lovely sunny day in Rayleigh, Essex. So here is the actual finished article, all working up and nice. But I'm just going to run through what I did to actually get to this stage and how we went about it and sort of things I found out about it and what to do. We had an idea of what we wanted to do, 3 graduated tubs as you can see here. So we went to a local garden centre and had a look what they had to offer, and these were the ones we came up with. We used a sort of wide one to give a bit more stability than rather having sort of narrower tall ones, because it will be a bit top heavy. These we liked because there's a sort of stone effect, but they're actually made of a fiberglass resin, so they're really light, resistant to frost, and sort of quite easy to work with. So, but what I did, I wasn't sure how watertight they'd be, whether it'd be porous or what, so I actually applied some sealer inside before we started doing anything, and that seems to work because as you can see by the floor there's no wetness there, and they've been running a few days now, so all seems good. So after I'd applied all the sealer in the bottom, I had to work out how I could get it so that they could be stacked, and what I decided to do was use some fairly strong plastic flower pots, turn them upside down and sat them in the bottom of the pot so that the one above would sit on the base, and to hold them in place I put a dab of silicone just to hold them central, and then stood bricks round the pots with some old bits of ceramic tile we had, so that I could then lay a plastic mesh to put the stones on. Now the reason for having the upturned flower pot, or particularly in the bottom one, was I used it to house the pump, which was a small pump I got off eBay. It's only about £10, and the idea of I did a little bit of research, and what they say you do is it normally gives you the height, the water height that it will pump to, and the thing to do is to get one that's 1.5 times the height of the water feature. So for this one I went for about around about a metre, which as you can see works well for the effect we wanted. The mesh I used under the decorative stones is this one here, which I had some left over from an old washroom that I had. We used to put it on the floor to make it anti-slip, so if the floor got wet you could still walk on it. It's quite strong, sort of rubberised stuff, cuts really easily with a Stanley knife. And what I did, I made 3 circles of it, the diameters of the inside of each of the pots, then cut a hole in the centre for the pipe to go up to deliver the water to the top pot. So after getting the level of the bricks and the tiles on top, probably just below the top, so that you can get a nice layer of mesh, and as you can see a nice layer of the pebbles we had. These pebbles we had laying in the garage in a bucket from whatever we'd used them for before, I've no idea. So as you can see we've got enough pebbles in there that covers the mesh, but the mesh is only just below their surface. So then I had to find a piece of pipe to run up the centre of the pots, and what I found is an old frame from something I used to use on camping. It's actually, I don't know, it's galvanised I think it is, so it's obviously resistant to rust. This bit's been laying out in the garden for years, so I just cut a straight bit off it and used that up the middle. When you're putting the pipes up through the middle, what you have to be careful of is if you don't seal the base of the top 2 pots around the pipe, if you switch the pump off they will drain into the bottom one and it'll overflow, losing all your water. So what I did, I used some bathroom sealer, the same as I used to stick the pots in, the flower pots in place, used some bathroom sealer round the pipe, and then I pushed an old piece of rubber pipe down to act as a sort of rubber seal held in by the sealer. And as you can see, that's worked well, because I tried turning it off and it doesn't drain down and overflow. So that all seemed to be quite successful. Now the effect we wanted was the bubbling effect, as you can see on the top there. And to get this effect, what you do, you cut the pipe to about 1.5 inches below the surface of the water at the top, so it's actually pumping the water through the water, if you like, to give that bubbling effect, which is quite nice, and it actually sounds really nice as well, as you can hear. Very relaxing. Also, once I'd done it, I found that the pebbles kept moving and going to shut the pipe off. So as you can see in there, what I did, I found an old piece of sink waste pipe and just cut a circle to sit on the plastic mesh to stop the stones rolling in and covering the pipe up. Now the only problem I did have, which I didn't envisage, was that when we did turn it off, it did actually overflow. But the reason for this was because the outlet pipe is below the water level. When you turn it off, the water goes down to the pump, fills the bottom pot up and overflows, so it drained down to the top of the outlet pipe. I may well fit a one-way valve, or just manually every time we turn it off, just put a little rubber bung over the top of the pipe below the surface, and that will hold it all in place. So as you can see, along the way, sort of really just using stuff that I found that I had, or working it out, and it really didn't cost a tremendous amount. I think the pots were 45 in total. That was £20 for the big one, 15 for the centre one, and 10 for the top one. The pump was about £10 on eBay, so that's 55. And what we're buying, things like sealer, the silicone, it really didn't come to a great deal compared with what something like this would cost if you bought it ready-made. And of course the other thing is, because it's something that we did on our own, no one else has got one. Now the only other thing I've got to work out, if I just come around this side, at the moment, one thing I haven't mentioned is that when you put the flower pots in, drill some holes in the side of them to allow the water back in to the pump. So I did that, and I also did an extra hole for running the wire out of. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can either drill a hole in the side and run the pipe through it, or even low down if you're confident you can get it sealed properly. But what I've decided I'll probably do is, on the back edge that you don't see from, say, the house or looking at it, I might just V this out, lay the pipe, lay the wire in, run it down, and discreetly run it round the patio, just so that I'm not sort of making too many holes in it, because the more holes you make, the more chance you've got of leaks occurring. Now the other thing is also, when we use our caravan, we use a sterilising liquid so that the drinking water in the tank stays clean. And it's a good idea to put some of this in these so that it sort of holds back how quickly the water goes green or gets dirty. So that's not a bad tip. You can either buy tablets you can drop in there, or I've known people who have used the sterilising stuff, Milton, that you'd use on babies' bottles and things like that. So as you can see, really happy with the results. Very relaxing, very nice. I'm going to possibly look into putting some lighting on it, because we tried it with an LED torch in the dark the other day and it looked really good, because as you may be able to see from this, you can see the water glistening down the side of it, and of course you get a light on that where it's overflowing, running down the side. It looks really good. So if I work out how to do that, I'll do another video to show you all. So I hope you enjoyed this, and perhaps feel that you can have a go yourself now, because it really wasn't that difficult but you just have to sort of think of what the water's got to do and where you want it to go and how you want it to look. And I think you'll agree it looks really, really good. Quite a sort of professional looking thing. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them on here, or comments or whatever. Hopefully no criticisms. But I don't think this was bad for a first attempt, and I hope you all agree. So thank you very much for watching. Bye now.